Hello F1 fans and welcome to F1 on and off the track with Kim Illman. You can see his photos at prostarpics.com, subscribe to his YouTube channel or follow him on Instagram at Kim Illman. My name is Adrian and in this episode we're talking about the last race of the year, the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix that just happened. How was it, Kim?
I think it was pretty boring if you're watching it on television. A bit hard to tell from where I stand, but I just seem to remember Lewis in front all day, and apart from an incident on the first turn where Pierre Gasly got his front wing knocked off, I'm not sure there's too much more that happened. I'll tell a lie because I thought Nico, I went back to the media centre with about 6 laps to go, dropped some stuff off, and I was looking at the screen there and I'm seeing Nico's in 8th place or 9th, and I thought, oh, well, that's great, he's going to be in the top 10. And then when probably about 20 minutes after the race, I said to someone, Nico finished top 10? No, he finished 12th. I said, what happened? Oh, he had an incident on a corner and came off, I think, or ran a bit wide. But as often is the case here, I don't get to find out really what happened until the Monday.
Well, I'm not going to ask how Parc Fermé is because I know you were at the FIA garage.
I was. With Lewis winning, I thought I'll sacrifice that because I got so many shots of Lewis winning and it wasn't for a title or anything. So I went out the back and waited for the drivers to come out, which is a cavalcade of amazing photos. Not the greatest location. It's it's almost very ordinary looking. But you get sweaty guys, reactions like you don't get normally. So I waited out the back and my focus was on Nico Hulkenberg. It was his last race. And he came through the door and he had this beaming grin on his face and he went straight up to his trainer, Martin Poole, and it gave him a big hug, and I positioned myself so that I could see Nico's face because he was obviously the subject of the shot. And he could see me, and he gave me the thumbs up and a wink because I'd spent a bit of time with him that day, and his family and his social media manager were there. And it was just good. I wanted to follow the whole day of Nico, and earlier in the day he had come out of the hospitality suite and gone to the garage, and they'd made a guard of honour for him. He also, in the morning when he came in with his girlfriend. For the very first time, I got a 2-shot of them together, arm around each other, and he's never done that before. So I think that might have been my reward for being there every time he comes in. And then at the end of the night, he gave a lovely hug to Sunny, his girlfriend, and I got that, and that was one of my best posts ever on my page.
One of my favourite moments featuring him this weekend was when he was having the team shoot.
Yes, and that was quite remarkable because I had no idea that they would do what I'm about to tell you that they did. And if you've seen my Instagram feed, you'll know what they did. They did the shot with all of the team behind him and the 2 drivers sitting on their cars, and that was done normally. And then Nico went to get up and they said, oh, just hang on a sec. And everybody behind had obviously been given a wig, a Nico hair wig. And then they ran Daniels out to him and they all posed for a shot with their wigs on, and it was fantastic. Just a really nice gesture, and he just couldn't get over it. And I had no idea it was coming, so it was a lovely surprise for me as well. And that, I can tell you, Adrian, is my biggest ever post on Instagram. It's already had a reach of nearly into 250,000 people. Sorry, impressions, 250,000 people. It's had 20,500 likes and a few hundred comments. So I think I will do, in fact, I've got a video going up on the YouTube channel on Wednesday entitled What We'll Miss About Nico, but I'm going to do one in a couple of weeks about my final day watching him and being around him, because it was a pretty emotional thing for the guy, really. He was pretty close, I think, to getting a drive at Red Bull, and had Alex Albon not have gone well, there is some talk that he may have landed that role and was perhaps odds on for it, but you know, that's the way this thing works. You can be close, but if you're not close enough, bang, you pay the price and you don't get a drive that year. And I think a lot of people would like to see him back in 2021. But as with anything, if you're out for a year, it's hard for you to get back in.
I believe he also gave you a bit of a hard time as well.
He cripple-nibbled me, the bugger.
Yes.
I was taking photos of them coming in, and then I thought, I'll focus on his girlfriend because she's quite popular on my page. And he could see I was very clearly focusing on her. And as he came towards me, and she was about 3 meters behind him, he cripple-nibbled me. So, look, I can tell you, he doesn't do that to every photographer. So I've got a reasonably good relationship with the man, and it's a mark of respect that he took enough interest in me to do it.
Well, many teams had their final shoot for the year, and I believe you're also at Red Bulls.
Red Bulls, yeah. Max and Alex. And then I went up to Lando Norris's. I can't even remember what happened. Nothing exciting happened at the Red Bull one, I don't think. It was just a perfunctory, lots of blokes and women standing around. And then they do one shot with the driver and a driver A and his team, and one shot with driver B and his team. They did the same thing up at McLaren. Lando had his parents in one of the shots. They're lovely people, Adam and Siska. And the thing with this race for Lando was that he gave one of his helmets, the helmet that he wore and had specially designed, he gave to his performance engineer, Andrew Jarvis, who's a lovely fellow. He's been with him this year, and he's now leaving the team to go to America with his wife, who wants to settle in California. And I don't know whether you've seen the video on Instagram and elsewhere of Jarvo talking to Lando at the end of the race over the two-way, but it is very funny because Lando has a dig at him for crying. But they're very good friends. I did the track walk with them on Thursday, and I said, well, how about we get a photo of you and Jarvo leaving, because he's leaving. And he said, yeah, okay, this fella's leaving too, one of the guys from Pirelli who walks with them. He's leaving the team as well. So I got a 3-shot of them on the straight with no one else around. They're always valuable shots when you get shots that nobody else gets. Like much the same with the shot of Sonny and Nico last night. There was no TV crew. There was me. There was his social media manager, and the two of them, 4 of us in a little daggy alleyway. And going back to that shot, I decided I would come round. I shot from one side, which had the awful background of the FIA garages. And then as they manoeuvred, I thought, well, I'm not going to get his face here. So I moved the other side, got the beautiful dark blue sky and the lights behind. So, sometimes you just have to move around to get a much better shot.
Lando also managed to steal Daniel Ricciardo's hat. What transpired from that?
They do that a lot now. It's quite a funny little lark they play on the bus where one grabs another's hat and throws it into the crowd or throws it away. And then Daniel kept saying, because Lando had grabbed his hat very early on before the bus took off, he said, if mine goes, yours goes. Mine goes, yours goes, I tell you. And look, jumping around a bit here at the end of the night, and you won't know about this because I haven't put this post up, there's 2 things. Daniel actually went from the Renault garage over to the Red Bull hospitality suite, walked in, and he was having a lovely time chatting with Max, and I think he even had Max's helmet on there for a bit. And he was just, I think it was a goodbye end of year thing, just thanking all the Red Bull people because, he spent a lot of time there. It was a really lovely moment to watch. I couldn't photograph it because they were inside and I was outside, but that was a lovely thing. And then there was another, perhaps even, definitely a funnier thing. I was standing in the paddock. It was late, probably an hour and a half after the race, and they wheel a guy out from the Renault hospitality suite, and he's gaffer taped to a tyre transporter on his back. He's got food rubbed all over him. He's got curry powder in his hair and all sorts of food. And they're wheeling him quickly out into the paddock. So I take these photos and I thought, well, I can't go down there because I've got to go and do something else. And they ended up going into the pit lane. But I asked James Moy, who works for XPB, a photography agency, what was that about? And he said, well, this is what they do. When a team member leaves Renault and goes to another team, they officially present him to that team in this fashion, so that when they got this guy down there all mucked up and messy, I think he was going to Toro Rosso, they've then gone and put oil over him as a mark of respect from their end, and then they've wheeled him back, and I don't know how they get him clean. There's obviously showers in there somewhere in the hospitality suites, but it was a right royal mess. But very funny photos.
Yeah, this whole race seems very jovial.
Yeah, I think because there was nothing really hanging on it. Championship had been won. There was a few minor things, who comes 5th or 6th, and to the teams that's important, but to the general public, that's it's just a minor interest. So, yeah, it's a good atmosphere. It's beautiful when the sun goes down because you just drop 8 or 10 degrees, and it's a really perfect temperature. Very well dressed crowd. Excited people, and I missed a photo of a woman in a green outfit that I've not seen anything like it. She had these metal clips in her hair, and she looked quite stunning. And the one or the 2 occasions I saw her, I was about to take her photo for Women of the Paddock, which goes up today, Monday, and I thought, oh no, I'll get her on the way back. And I saw her twice and never again But look, there's enough women at the paddock. I'll struggle for men. I didn't pay that much attention to the men of the paddock, and as a result, I'm going to have to work hard to find my mandatory 10.
F1 On and Off the Track is presented by ProStarPics.com. Stunning F1 photos live from the track, searchable and downloadable for personal or editorial use. Head to ProStarPics.com at the end of this podcast.
Well, Lewis spent some time with a young fan from Melbourne, Australia.
Layla is her name, and I have photographed her, I think it was in Singapore. She and her parents, David and Lisa, from memory. Mackay, there we go, that's their last names. They were in the paddock in Melbourne, and all the drivers, when they went to the Friday night drivers briefing, well, not all of them, but certainly most of them, stopped for a photo, because she's quite a cute-looking young lady, and I think she's probably about 4 or 5, she could be 7, I don't know. He was heading out to do a media thing outside the gates, and this young girl cried out, "Lewis, Lewis," and he stopped. Now, you've got to be good for Lewis to stop, because he doesn't. Normally he takes off, and you've got to be quite quick. But he stopped for her, and I got some great pictures of a lovely interaction. I think there was only his photographer and a video cameraman around. So my whole modus operandi is ideally to be on my own, where I'm the only one with the pictures, because it's no good like last night at Parc Ferme. There's probably 120 photographers out there all getting the same photos. Someone else will put them up. I don't need them.
The drivers had their own little secret Santa, it seems, and you were around for Charles' present unveiling.
I was. He had some Stance socks, and they were presented obviously by Daniel, who's sponsored by Stance. But all the drivers have to pick somebody and give something interesting. I noticed that somebody gave someone an oversized rear view mirror, an indication that perhaps they should be looking more in their rear view mirrors when they drive. And I can't remember who it was, but I thought that was a creative gift, whereas Charles's gift was more a useful gift, because they are beautiful socks. And I don't know why they're so good. In fact, I had a chat with their marketing lady the other day, and she did say that they'd retooled a whole lot of machinery, and as such, it allowed them to make socks with no stitching in the toes, which, come to think of it, it's an important thing. They're a bit more comfortable, but I'll admit I am a fan of their product.
There was a photo on your Instagram of an interesting character called Moko. Can you tell us about him?
Yeah, a lot of people have asked me about him. He's a guy from Senegal, West Africa, very dark skin, and wears the craziest clothing. And he is a friend of everybody. He goes to every race. He says that he's the only one there paying for his flights. And I asked, "Are you a jeweler?" And he said, "Well, that's what they say." And I said, "Well, are you?" And he said, "Well, that's what they say." Yeah, I snapped in with Mika Hakkinen yesterday and Fernando Alonso. Every driver stops to talk to him. So he's quite out there, and a lovely sort of guy. And I also took a photo at a couple of my followers' request, a guy by the name of Walter Costa. Now, maybe his name won't ring a bell, but F1 fans who watch the press conferences and can remember the German guy, he speaks English, the German guy who asked the very long questions, that's him. And I spent the whole weekend trying to find him. He was in the media centre somewhere, and I get my German friends to come and point him out. And I got him late last night, final night, and lovely man. And I think a lot of people will be keen to put a face to the name that they know and the voice that they've heard.
You also posted a selfie of you and a fellow F1 photographer with a lot of praise for you both.
Was that with Mark Sutton at the start?
Yes, I believe so.
Yes, and then I posted a selfie of me and Nico Hulkenberg, which wasn't a selfie, actually, it's his social manager took it. But the selfie that I took that I haven't posted was at the insistence of my son, or both of them actually, who loved Casey Neistat. Do you know him?
Vaguely, yes.
YouTuber.
Yeah.
He's one of the top 2. He's got tens of millions of followers. And my son mentioned the fact that he's going to be at the race today, and I was most surprised and delighted when I saw him on the track for the grid, and I had a quick chat with him and said, "Look, my son's a huge fan of yours, and you've inspired me to start." My son and he have inspired me to start YouTubing, and it's going very well too. So I got a quick selfie with him, and true to form, he had to grab the phone because I was struggling with it. I'm pretty good with my camera, but the phone camera, too slow.
So you'll be on for testing. What can we look forward to from that?
Well, based on testings in the past, you get photos. Well, for a start, there's only probably 15 photographers tops there. The drivers are much more relaxed. They spend time out on the deck dining. They're not worried about lots of fans, because I'm pretty sure there are hardly any fans, if any, in the paddock. So you get this marvellous access to the drivers. You get an opportunity, if you want to do car shots, to spend an hour or 2 hours on a shot, if that's what you want. And you can't do that during a race weekend. There's simply too much to do. And then you get stuff like last year, where Daniel was out the back of or in the paddock, actually just kicking a footy around or throwing a gridiron ball around. They're the photos that you won't get during a 4-day race event. So I think that'll be an interesting series of pics, and they'll be going up on ProStar Pics and on my kimillman.com page and on Instagram.
How differently do the drivers act for testing compared to race days?
Well, I'll give you an example. Last year, Nico and Martin came out of the garage, and I was about 40 metres away, and so I took a shot and I looked at it in the back of the camera, and when I looked back up, Nico and his trainer are doing this crazy superheroes pose at me, and luckily I managed to get a frame that was sharp, and I got him to sign it several months later in the next calendar, earlier this year. But that's the sort of stuff that you don't get normally.
How many photographers hang around? I imagine it's not many.
About 15, I reckon. Might be less. Certainly no local photographers. It's only the full-timers, I think, that are there. You might get 1 or 2 local photographers. But there is a lot of packing up going on. I'm pretty sure that most teams only use 1 car. In fact, I'll confirm that tomorrow when we start. But they start at 9 a.m. and they finish at 6 p.m. and I think they have an hour off. Would that be 6? And yeah, they have an hour off in the middle of the day, which is good because it gives you a chance to go back and edit when everyone's locked down inside eating, so you're not missing out on any shots. And quite frankly, this wouldn't appeal to anyone else but the few photographers that are there. The food that we get served during testing is much better than the food we get served during the normal 4-day event. They obviously have different caterers, and it's like a lovely buffet. So that's nice.
It's been announced that next year F1 will be headed to Hanoi in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever shot at a new location like this before?
Yeah, I shot Germany for the first time last year, and Paul Ricard for the first time last year. But there's 2 races next year. There's Holland and Hanoi in Vietnam. The Vietnam one's good because it's only about probably 8 hours from Perth compared with 20-odd for Europe. But and then the other thing with Hanoi too is the accommodation's quite reasonable. Here in to give you an idea, in Abu Dhabi, if you want to stay on Yas Island, where I am now, near the track, the rates go, last night it was about 850 Aussie a night, and tonight it's 150 Aussie a night,
Wow.
which is, it's just crazy how much they can screw out of the customers. And then they have the special menu for Grand Prix week. Yes, a special menu. It's special for them because it's about double the price. So I kicked myself for not taking a photo last night of the pricings of the food, but yeah, there's no bargains here during Grand Prix week, and I can assure you of that.
Can we still expect content from you even though the season has ended for YouTube and Instagram, etc.?
Yes, and there's a whole lot of stuff that I've got in my head that I'll be doing. I've still got some more driver profiles to do. The Angela Cullen video has absolutely floored me. It's up to about 150,000 views, and Angela is Lewis Hamilton's physiotherapist. But people obviously have an interest in those who are working behind the scenes. They see these people on telly, or if they come to the track, they see them shadowing Lewis in this particular instance. They want to know, what's her story? Where does she come from? And the fact that I have a bit of information about them from my own personal experience, plus a bit of research stuff, yeah, it's really taken off. So I think I might do something on the other drivers, people behind the scenes, certainly the more well-known ones. But obviously when it comes to driver profiles, someone like a Lance Stroll, I really don't know that much about the youngster. So that one won't be a 20-minute video like Lando's was, because I know quite a lot about him.
Well, thank you very much for being with us and for your hard work all year, Kim.
It's been a pleasure, and I must admit I do like a Monday off in a place where I don't have to move. And I'm pretty sure I don't even have to do any laundry today.
To see any of the photos we've talked about today, head over to prostarpics.com. You can also stay updated by following Kim on Instagram at Kim Illman, or seeing his latest videos by subscribing on YouTube. If you like what you heard today, please give us a review and remember to hit subscribe to stay posted for our next episode. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you on and off the track.
F1 On and Off the Track was presented by prostarpics.com. Stunning F1 photos live from the track, searchable and downloadable for personal or editorial use. prostarpics.com. Head there now.